Let's jump to the story from Reuters. Kalshi sued over ouster of Iran leader prediction market. This is getting spicy. I'll give you the quick version. Kalshi had a contract prediction that you could buy as to whether or not the Ayatollah would be out as supreme leader before a certain date. When the news broke that we were bombing Iran, people rushed to buy, yes, he will be out, under the presumption that death means he's out. However, Kalshi quickly clarified, saying, no, the rules have already made it clear it's not a death contract. You are not predicting his death. This is, he will be removed from power, or he will resign or leave. When he died, people thought they had won. And that meant if you spent, let's say you bought shares at 30 cents per contract, you'd expect to get paid out $1 per contract. That's a 60% boost, right? Unfortunately, they said no, because this only resolves on him leaving office, we're going to pay everyone out as per whatever the market value was at the time of the reporting. Now, this has resulted in a massive lawsuit because it was a $54 million market. That's how much money was placed. And Kalshi gave refunds to a lot of people, paid reimbursements. I respect it. And the rules were always clear. Full disclosure, Kalshi does sponsor this show from time to time. I want to make sure everyone knows this. And additional full disclosure, I am actually potentially an individual standing in this lawsuit, as I actually did purchase some contracts that Ayatollah Khomeini would be out of office, and I legit thought that death was a possibility to resolve that contract. However, I did not know that death wasn't part of this, but I also think that, look, if you guys are going to play these games, like, that's your responsibility to read the contract you're buying. So I am no interest in whatever this suit is. That being said, I do think there's an inverse problem here for the prediction market, and there's a lot to discuss in this matter. If Kalshi says that in order to resolve, will Khomeini be out of office by March 1st, he must choose to leave or be removed politically. That would mean, with death not counting, this did resolve to no. The point being, if he died of natural causes, that doesn't count. Now there is no longer an opportunity for him to peacefully or politically be removed. Therefore, no, he reached the conclusion of his life. That means anybody who said he would not be removed should have been paid out 100%. Instead, they froze it and paid out different amounts. And these people are suing, claiming they deserve to win based on a yes result, even though the contract explicitly stated that doesn't count. Where Kalshi is getting themselves in trouble, in my opinion, is that they should have paid out all of the no's. I should have not gotten a refund. They should have taken all of the money from me, because the moment we dropped the bomb on the palace, this is where I think it's so absolutely insane, guys. It's so absolutely insane. Okay, let me just finish this thought and then talk to you about how crazy it really is. If dying doesn't cover it, there's no longer an opportunity for the Ayatollah to peacefully resign or be removed. Therefore, no is resolved. Anyone who said no should get paid. Instead, they paid other people out for the most part. Now, here's where it gets really crazy. When the bomb was dropped, I believe it was 4 a.m. Eastern time. And I think, and that would have put it like, what, 2 o'clock or something in Iran or something like that.
Yep.
This means that he was dead. He was done dead at that point, but no one knew. We didn't get confirmation until somewhere like 2 p.m. Eastern time here in the United States. So here's an issue. If it does resolve yes when he's killed, should you not then have to suspend and reverse all transactions up to the point of the confirmed missile strike? So put it like this. The way I described it earlier today is, imagine you made a sports bet on a Bears game, the Bears, and there's no fans, there's no press. The only people who know what's going on are the players on the field. And then all of a sudden, people outside the stadium hear a bunch of cheering, and they go, I think the Bears won. They probably won. So they all start making bets. Bears won the game, even though they don't know for sure, and they could have already won. How can you make a bet on a sporting event that already happened? Then, 3 hours later, the news breaks, Bears win the game, and then the sport betting site suspends all transactions and says, we're not paying out anybody based on a win or loss. You know, my point is this. With prediction markets, you're creating very strange circumstances where people are effectively wagering on events that cannot conclude in a timely manner.
I know, it's like someone shoots the bullet and then like before the bullet hits the guy, make the bet that he's going to die. You're like, what? Bro, no, Kalshi should have said every bet that was made up to 24 hours before this guy got killed is it should be in the terms.
Well, no.
Count. If he's killed, every bet 48 hours before he was killed doesn't count.
No, not 48 hours before. That makes no sense. The point is this. If we learn 8 hours later that the Bears actually won, then shouldn't I get paid? Shouldn't you cancel any bet made after they already won the game? You can't make a bet in a game that already happened.
Yeah.
So the issue here with these prediction markets is that they're saying like this will resolve upon confirmation by the New York Times or something. This creates a whole lot of problems where everyone's talking about insider trading, but it's not insider trading. If you're literally in Iran and you're like 2 blocks away and the missile blows up, wiping out the palace, and you duck down, and then you run over there and they're all like looking at the Ayatollah's body, you're like, we got a good 7 or 8 hours before New York Times actually confirms it. We're going to get rich. Right. And then a bunch of Iranians start wagering on Polymarket to make a bunch of money. That makes literally no sense. That an event can conclude, but until a third party outside of both the event, of both the leadership of Iran, the military action against him, his choices, and Polymarket has to confirm it. This is insane. For that matter, what really irks me is there is currently a contract on Kalshi. We've talked about whether or not Tim Pool will go to a press briefing. And there's questions over whether it's illegal or legal for me or people who know to wager on this because it would be insider trading. But I'm going to put my fist down and say this. I am not selling contracts. I have nothing to do with the distribution of contracts from Kalshi. They sponsor the show sometimes. So fair point if someone wants to say, well, that counts. My point is ultimately this. If George Santos has contracts produced, I have questions about whether or not they're allowed to use the likeness of these individuals to profit selling contracts against their future behavior and then putting the legal liability on insider trading on an individual who never asked for contracts to be sold in their name.
Yeah.
So here's what happens. Here's where it gets weird. The purpose of insider trading contracts, it's simple. If I have a company and I have stock and then I whisper to Ian, hey man, the company's not doing too well. Our stock's going to crash when we make a public announcement. So Ian runs out and he buys a bunch of stock. Insider trading. He had information no one had access to, buying stock. Now hold on. My company is the issuer of that stock. That's insider information. Ergo, the only insider trading that could actually be applied is if someone at Kalshi had insider information on the result of a contract and they were sharing it with an individual. If they want to sell contracts without my consent about me, Polymarket or Kalshi, it's not insider trading because I'm not selling those contracts. Whether I choose or not to choose to do something has nothing to, I'm not taking any responsibility from this. They did it without my consent. So case in point, if, again, a company is selling their own stock and there is information they have about the value of that stock, then you got insider trading. If a random guy 3 miles away discovers a new filament, which is going to put GE out of business, and now he knows that GE stock is going to go down, is it insider trading if he goes someone and says, look, I've discovered a new filament that's going to put GE out of business?
No.
Indeed. So the point I am making is I liken these scenarios identically. Kalshi sells contracts to people about my behavior or George Santos or anybody else. I never told them to do it. I didn't say they could or could not or whatever. Therefore, I am not an insider with Kalshi, and it is not insider trading if I were to inform someone about my intentions and they profited off of it. If I told Ian, I am going to the press briefing tomorrow, so then he bought a bunch of shares from Kalshi, that's not insider trading because he is not a Kalshi insider.
What if there's an external company that you don't like for whatever reason, and you tell your buddy, I'm going to tank their stock, and you go on TV and you're like, make up something that's legal but diminishes them.
That's a different kind of fraud.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a different kind of fraud.
Still illegal? Because I feel like that's what
spiking stock value through lies intentionally is a criminal act, yes.
This is a new phenomenon that I know of Kalshi and the other Polymarket. In real time, you're allowed to bet on yourself. Like if
No, their rules say I can't.
Okay.
Their rules say that
I can.
Anybody who can affect they call it insider trading. I think that is wrong. They say anybody who can affect the outcome can't buy on it, or anyone with insider access to information based on that, and that's their rules. But I would argue that does not fall into what insider trading is, because to be fair, the argument is this: stocks of a company are traded between private parties. However, my argument is still the individual who owns the company is the insider, and the information provided that would qualify something for insider trading has to come from insiders at the company. I am not an insider at the company. The contracts they are selling have nothing to do with me and my business, my consent, contracting or otherwise. Therefore, anything I say is not insider to what they are selling. They're selling a product based on what they think I might do. I can do whatever I want. You can't tell me no.
So recently there was a contract that said, will George Santos show up to the State of the Union, right?
Indeed.
And
I knew the answer to it.
So if I called up George...
Which I did.
And asked, hey, dude, are you showing up? And he says, whatever, and I go and make...
George is great. George, what up?
Yeah, we love George, by the way. Love you, George. But
Ant-Man.
Yeah, but, if I go and make... or buy contracts based on his response, is that insider trading?
They argue the answer is yes. I argue the answer is no, because first, my argument is the company selling the contracts, you are not an insider of. Their choice in selling the contract to other people has nothing to do with your actions or George's actions. You guys are third parties. George Santos is a third party uninvolved in the sale of a product by Kalshi.
Right.
What he chooses to do or not is not insider trading. That's BS. More importantly, George telling you is informing the public.
Gotcha.
So here's the point. The way insider trading works is Phil owns All That Remains Incorporated, and he's doing an IPO, and he knows his stock is gonna tank. So he tells Ian, and then Ian shorts the company. He's an insider with access to information no one in the public has, giving it solely to Ian to profit off of. George Santos is a third-party member of the public for which a different company is selling contracts against. George Santos tells a member of the public what he intends to do. He is not selling this person anything. He is not an insider. The question is, at what point does information become public? And there's really interesting case law and stories that I've read about this. Notably that when it came to Kalshi and the Super Bowl, the CEO agreed that at the Super Bowl halftime show, when they're doing rehearsals, if the dancers heard the song being played and then bought contracts on which song would be played, is that insider trading? Said no, because the song is being played in public. Now, hold on. It's a closed event. These dancers are not, nope, they are the public. They are not members of the production company. They are just people who happen to be there for a different job, hearing what's going on. So, for example, if the CEO of a company went outside of his building and screamed, oh my God, our entire shipment is lost, we're going to go bankrupt, he has now alerted the public. Now, whether or not someone reports or trades on it, it's not insider information. You were standing outside and the CEO yelled it to everybody releasing that information. Certainly there are questions and nuances there, but ultimately the issue I take is, very simply, to reiterate for the 15th billionth time, ad nauseum, I don't understand how you can accuse an individual of being an insider when they are not the ones selling the contracts.
Yeah, I mean, the Kalshi stuff is it's real murky. Just like you said, it's like if you got nothing to do with Kalshi and they put up something about what you may or may not do, you have no obligation to avoid doing something on their site. I mean, they did use your likeness or whatever without your permission. There's no reason why you should be like, oh, I can't get involved with this,
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.